is Victoria Robinson, and this is my Broken Not Dead story.
I'm broken, not dead.
Before choosing abortion, I was already a broken woman. My husband decided he didn't want to be married, so my self-esteem was shot to pieces. I felt unworthy. I had always expected to be married the rest of my life. I never intended to get married to get divorced. So I was already broken from a childhood of pain and divorce and an alcoholic father and a mother who didn't know how to connect emotionally. Then you put on top of that a young woman who's trying to raise 2 little girls, finds out she's pregnant, and it has devastating consequences. I mean, the tricks you play on your mind. So before my abortion, I was broken. Let me make that clear. After I chose abortion, and what brought me to that decision was because I felt I had no other choice. And I felt if I chose abortion soon enough, before my pregnancy became a real baby, it wouldn't bother me. Since I was told I was so early, I was about 6 weeks, that there was nothing there, I knew I had a timetable that I was on to hurry up and get this done, because once it became a baby, I wouldn't be able to do it. So I walked into an abortion clinic and continued to believe the lies that this was the best choice for me. I was even told I would be an incredibly selfish mother to not choose to terminate the pregnancy when I could barely take care of the 2 that I had. But I can remember lying on the table as that doctor walked in, looking at the ceiling, just staring at the ceiling while I'm lying on that exam table and they're doing what they're doing to get ready to end the life of my child, of wanting to scream out and tell them I changed my mind. But I was paralyzed. I was paralyzed with fear. I couldn't speak. But so I knew before they even performed the abortion and before they even ended the life of my unborn child, that this broken girl was about to be pushed all the way over. And then 10 minutes later, it was over. I was told to go into the next room and to spend 30 minutes lying on a cot in this large room that was filled with women that were in, there wasn't a bed that was empty. And I was told to lie down, take a couple Tylenol, and then I could get up and leave. I was so overcome with emotion and with guilt and with shame for what I had just done 10 minutes earlier in a different room that I needed to get out of there and run out. So I grabbed my things and I said, I'm not staying. And I got out of there as fast as I could. So the same girl who walked onto that elevator just an hour or so earlier was not the same girl who was walking onto that elevator. As soon as the doors shut, I fell to the ground on the elevator, and I just knew instinctively I had just made a choice that would haunt me and that I would regret for the rest of my life.
Do you still regret that choice?
I will regret that choice till the day I die. The difference today is I have found forgiveness and healing through Christ. But just like an alcoholic who's reformed, who may walk into a bar and crave that drink, has to say no, the woman or the man who's had an abortion, even when they go through healing, will still always long to hold that child. After I chose abortion, the boyfriend that I thought would be with me till we were old, because we promised we'd get married later, have kids later, it wasn't true. It destroyed our relationship. I never looked at him the same. He never looked at me the same. So we broke up. So for over 10 years, I lived with that guilt and that shame. I wasn't sharing it with anyone, but I started saying yes to everything in the church that I started going to. Will you help with the women's ministry? Yes. Will you help with the youth ministry? Yes. Will you stay up late and pray with us? Yes. Whatever you want. Yes. Will you sing on the worship team? Absolutely. Yes, yes to everything, thinking if I continued to say yes, that guilt that I felt, that pain that I felt, that's what would finally bring my complete healing from God, as long as I did enough for Him. All lies. It wasn't true. So the woman who was the executive director of the pregnancy center where I went to church just happened to be a member of where I was going to church. And we started talking, and she introduced herself to me one day, and she said, Victoria, you would be so great as a volunteer at the pregnancy center. You should come volunteer. And I'd say, oh, okay, someday I will. Her name was Mary, and I'd put her off, and I'd put her off. This went on for like 3 years.
Had you told her that you had it?
No, gosh, I hadn't told anybody. I would be singing every week in church, praying as I'm leading worship for 7,000 people, that no one could tell I'd had an abortion. I mean, every week it was this constant, please don't let them know, Lord. Please don't let them find out. They'll kick me out of this church. They won't let me sing. They won't let me be part of the ministries. Don't let them know. Don't let them know. So absolutely nobody knew. Not even my closest friends knew. So Mary continues to come to me for 3 years. I'd see her at the grocery store. I mean, I would be there getting groceries, and there's Mary around the corner. You need to come all the time. So I started telling the Lord, are you just torturing me? You know, she's everywhere I go. You want to just keep reminding me of my choice to go work at this pregnancy center so you can just punish me over and over again. And that was my attitude, and it was a very bad attitude. And then women's ministry started happening. Victoria, you're going to be part of the prayer team. Okay, whatever you need. And I'd be at the altar, and women would come to me and say, will you pray for me? And they'd whisper in my ear, I had an abortion. Nobody knows. God always led them to me. Nobody knew about my past. So that made me more and more angry. Like God was punishing me again. And then when we would get together after the conferences, we would all discuss, how did it go? This was great. And I'd say, did anybody hear from someone who had an abortion? No, Victoria, you always get the women who've had abortions. So then what does that do? It makes me more angry. So I kept going to the Lord, just saying, why? Why do you hate me? I watch you heal these women. I pray with these women, and I watch what you do. What about me? What about me? Now, in the midst of all this going on with women's ministry and church stuff, Mary's in the picture in the same time frame. So one time, this woman came up to me, and she's just a wreck. And I don't know how I knew, I just knew. That's what she was going to tell me. And she started crying and said, please help me. I cannot live with this guilt anymore. I chose abortion. Please help me. Can you help me? Can God forgive me? And I prayed with her at that altar, and I watched God transform her right before my eyes. And she said, it's been decades, and I've never felt the freedom I feel right now. So that one got me. I was so happy for her. But I went home that night, and I was alone. My family wasn't there. And I mean, me and Jesus had it out. I mean, we had it out. I was so angry, and I was on the floor, and I was putting my fist up to him, and I mean, it was ugly. It made me feel like everyone was getting healed but me. It made me feel like everyone mattered to him but me. It made me feel like his grace and forgiveness was available to everyone but me. But hear me when I say I'm not the only person that feels that way. I've met men and women who are feeling and living in that right now. So I kept crying out to the Lord, once again, why do you hate me? When are you going to heal me? Like I watched you heal this woman. And I immediately was reminded of Mary. I saw Mary's face, and I felt the Lord speak to my heart and say, I've been trying. So the next day I called Mary, and I started volunteering. It took me a few months to finally confess to her. I was folding clothes, I knew I had no business in a counseling room with anyone. And then one day I walked into her office, and I said, I need to tell you something. I had an abortion. I can't live with this secret anymore. She said, I know. I said, wait, it is tattooed on my head? How do you know? And she said, because the Lord told me. And I've been waiting for you to come and speak to me. And now we're going to get you the help that you need, because God is going to use your story, Vic, to reach the nations. He's going to use your voice to bring healing to those post-abortive men and women who are desperately seeking it. And he has. That was 26 years ago. Everything that I have been through in my life, and I'm not just saying choosing abortion, that's one of the parts of my life, does not define who I am, and it doesn't define my identity like I thought it would, like I thought it did, like I allowed it to in the past. And it's brought me to the place where I want to be able to offer the same help to men and women that was offered to me by Mary and by Carolyn Rice and Trina Pitts, who actually got in there with me and helped me to find freedom from the guilt and the shame and all the stuff that comes with it, of how you treat yourself. I'll never forget on the Sunday when I walked out of that retreat that I attended, the after-abortion recovery. On the Thursday night when it started, I looked at Carolyn and Trina and I said, listen, I'm here because Mary said I had to come here. But I have been in church, I have been a worship leader, I have been in women's conferences, I've been begging God for over 10 years to heal me, heal me, heal me, and nothing's happened. I've seen him heal other women, but not me. But I came because Mary said I should be here. And I will never forget those precious, soft-spoken women. I call them church lady kind of women. They looked at me and said, well, we're just so happy you're here, Victoria. And honestly, at that moment, I wanted to slap them. I was like, oh, gosh, just shut up. But on Sunday, when the retreat was over, and I knew what I knew then, I looked at those same women and said, every woman and man needs to know about this healing. Everybody needs to experience what I just experienced. And I want to be facilitating and doing what you do. And they said, we know, and we're going to train you. And they did. I share my story because I don't want my child to have died in vain. And I truly believe that because my child died, I'll never know the numbers of children that live today because I share it.